Today, I'm going to show you how to craft great vocal mixes in a program called GarageBand. If you don't know, GarageBand is the stock recording software that comes on every single Mac computer, which means if you own a Mac, you own GarageBand. And the best part is that I'm only going to be using stock GarageBand plugins, which means no expensive third-party software. Everything that you need is already in the program. So if you're ready, let's go. Okay, let's get ourselves oriented in the session first. Very simple what I have going on here. I have an instrumental of the track that we're going to be mixing the vocal to. That sounds like this. Okay, and there's two different vocals that we're going to mix today. A softer, more kind of sentimental vocal that sounds like this.
Grew up strong with me holding you down. Hey kid, we used to think there was no clock.
And then a more full and open voice in the chorus that sounds like this.
Whoa, whoa.
So they're two different styles of vocal, and I'm going to show you how to process the two different styles of vocal separately because you don't process every vocal the exact same. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to start here at the soft vocal. I'm just going to solo it, and I'm going to bring up its mix properties by hitting B on the keyboard. And what I want you to pay attention to is this plugins section. GarageBand has already loaded on a compressor and an EQ. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reverse the order that those come up in because I want to EQ my vocal before I compress my vocal. So now that the EQ shows up before the compressor, I'm going to turn this compressor on, and I'm actually going to compress the vocal before I EQ it, which sounds backwards to what I just told you. But the reason I'm going to do it this way is because when I compress this vocal, it's going to change the energy and the way the vocal responds coming out of the speakers. And I want to hear that energy when I reach for my EQ. So let's actually get into it here. I'm going to click this compressor plugin, and that opens up the actual settings here. And the first thing that I'm going to do, because this is a soft vocal, is I'm going to go down to voice here. These are all just presets that you can use. And I'm going to choose the Opto Vocal 1. And what this is going to do is it's going to model an opto compressor. And the most popular compressor, opto compressor that is the LA2A. You might have seen it around. Tons and tons and tons of engineers use it. It's all over YouTube tutorials. It's a very, very popular compressor. So when you select the opto vocal preset, you are selecting an optical compressor feel. And that's what we want to use on these soft vocals because it just responds in a very smooth and round sort of way that isn't very attacky and bitey, which is like effect compressor that we're going to use on the lead vocal. So let's start dialing this in. I want to set the ratio to 4:1 and the attack fairly fast. The attack is how quickly the compressor reacts to the vocal, and I want it to react quickly in this case, just to keep everything nice and controlled and smooth. And then what we're going to do is we're going to dial in this compressor threshold until we start seeing these lights light up here. And what these lights are, they're called gain reduction lights. So you'll notice they light up from the top to the bottom. Every light that lights up is more and more signal turned down. And that's what a compressor does. It takes the loudest moments of a performance and squishes them down into the quieter moments so that the volume of the vocal is more even across the entire performance. So let's compress this vocal.
Hey kid, I know it's been a long, hard road, and I need you to know I'm so damn proud of how you grew up strong with me holding you down. Hey kid, we used to think there was no clock.
So these lights lighting up means the compressor's working, and you can hear that vocal change quite a bit. Obviously, it got a lot louder, so that's what this gain is for at the end of this compressor. We're going to use this gain slider to turn down the vocal coming out of this compressor so that it's not too loud in the mix.
We could do it all, but lately I've been thinking I'm all out of time, and so it goes.
So what I want you to listen for here is I want you to listen to how much more consistent the vocal stays on top of the music and how much more in your face and present it is when the compressor's engaged. So just have a listen here with the compressor engaged, and then I'll disengage it and we'll compare.
Long, hard road, and I need you to know I'm so damn proud of how you grew up strong with me holding you down.
And then without the compressor.
Hey kid, I know it's been a long, hard road, and I need you
And now the compressor back in.
Of how you grew up strong with me holding you
And the reason that vocal sits better in the mix is because that dynamic range is squeezed into a more consistent place to sit on top of that music. So that's step number one. Step number two is we are going to open this EQ and start with a high pass to take some of this low end out. So I'm just going to solo this vocal up. And the way I like to handle high passes is I like to high pass too much. So I'll drag it across and high pass too much, and then drag it back until it sounds the most like a natural vocal that I can get it to sound like.
Think there was no clock, we could do it all. But lately I've been thinking I'm all out of time, and so it goes. Somehow I just got in our own way. I believed the lie that we were past our glory days.
Okay, that's sounding pretty good. There's another frequency just above that high pass that I want to try to find that's sounding a little bit pudgy. So I'm going to take one of these other bands and I'm going to turn it up like this. And this is a really powerful way to just move an EQ around to listen to where the nastiest frequency ranges are and kill some of those. So that looks like this.
I'm trying to remember what it's like to play. I'm trying to remember what it's like.
So that 200 range is displeasing to me. So I'm going to try pulling a bit of that
On
out.
hard road, and I need you to know I'm so damn proud of how you grew up strong with me holding you down. Hey kid,
Sounding pretty good. Let's hear it in the mix.
on hard road, and I need you to know I'm so damn proud of how you grew up strong with me holding you down. Hey kid, we used to think there was no clock, we could do it all.
I'm actually going to put a bit of that low end back in. I think it was a bit heavy-handed here. Whoops.
But lately I've been thinking I'm all out of time, and so it goes. Somehow I just got in our own way. I believed the lie that we were past our glory days.
Okay, that's sounding great to me. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up a de-esser, which is under your dynamics. And when you compress a vocal, the term we use for it is it gets hotter. It gets more in your face. It gets more excited. And what ends up happening when that happens is the S sounds of the vocal can get a little bit harsh. So we use a de-esser to tamp some of just those S's down specifically. So there's two controls that we need to pay attention to here with this de-esser. The suppression frequency, which is where we are going to turn down. In the same way that we use an EQ to turn down a specific range of frequencies, we're going to use a de-esser to turn down a specific range of frequencies too. And then suppression is just how much it gets turned down. So we just kind of have to scroll around. I'm going to turn this up aggressively so that we get a lot of it, figure out where in the frequency range those S's are hot, and then back off how much we're taking off because it's going to sound ridiculous with it all the way up.
On hard road, and I need you to know I'm so damn proud of how you grew up strong with me holding you down. Hey kid, we used to think there was no clock, we could do it all. But lately I've been thinking I'm all out of time, and so it goes.
So you can hear it there. You can hear the de-esser working really hard on So It Goes.
I've been thinking I'm all out of time, and so it goes.
But what that means is we landed in the right frequency range, which is just about 6K. So now I'm just going to back off how much we take off so that it sounds a little bit more natural.
I've been thinking I'm all out of time, and so it goes. But lately I've been thinking I'm all out of time, and so it goes.
Sounding a little bit more natural. So let's listen to our vocal.
On hard road, and I need you to know I'm so damn proud of how you grew up strong with me holding you down. Hey kid, we used to think there was no clock, we could do it all. But lately I've been thinking I'm all out of time, and so it goes.
Okay, the last thing this vocal needs is just a little touch of reverb. And GarageBand has made this incredibly simple for you to do. On all of the channels, there's this ambience and reverb send. And what we're just going to do is we're going to turn up this reverb knob here to give ourselves a little bit of reverb on this vocal.
Somehow I just got in our own way. I believed the lie that we were past our glory days.
Okay, sounding great. Let's move to our second vocal, which is our chorus vocal. We're just going to repeat the same process with a couple small differences and one extra step. So we're going to click lead vocal 2, which brings up the mix properties for the second vocal. GarageBand has put the compressor before the EQ, so we're going to switch those first, and we're going to turn on this compressor, same as before, but instead of loading the opto preset, we're going to load a FET preset. Once I find it, there it is. And a FET compressor, the popular FET compressor that you're going to see everywhere is the 1176. It's like probably the most popular compressor there is. And what this compressor is known for is really like bitey, attacky, strong compression sounds. And I want this chorus vocal to kind of explode out of the speakers and sound really, really big. The FET compressor is really good at intense, bitey, in-your-face compression. So we're going to load up this FET preset, and we're going to play this chorus, and we're going to dial in a lot of compression on this vocal. So to start, I'm just going to turn this ratio up to 12:1. The higher you turn up the ratio, the more compression you're going to get. And I'm really going for a lot of compression on this vocal. And I choose 12:1 because I've used a bunch of 1176 compressors, and on a vocal that I really want to explode, 12:1 seems to be the sweet spot for me. So I'm going to start at 12:1, and I'm going to pull, as same as before, this compressor threshold down to get the compression here. So here we go. Okay, let's dial in this gain so that it's not so crazy. And the other thing that I'm going to do, I forgot to do this actually, is I'm going to turn this attack all the way up to 200 milliseconds, which is the slowest attack. And I'll show you exactly why as soon as I'm happy with how it's dialed in. So I'm just going to listen again. Okay, let's listen to that in solo, and I'll see if I can point out what I'm trying to do with this slow attack. To feel safe to dream again. Okay, it's really apparent on the line, I want you to feel safe to dream again, or speak again, I think is the lyric. Listen to this. I want you to feel. Listen to how hard it sounds like that word I attacks coming out of the speakers. I want you to feel safe to. The slow attack of the compressor is allowing the first bits of that vocal through the compressor chain before the compressor actually catches it and turns it down. And so that one moment is just super loud. And what that does is it gives the impression that the vocalist sang more aggressively than they actually did. And this is a trick a lot of people use when using 1176 compressors, which is a FET compressor. And I really like the sound of that style of compression, especially on a vocal like this that we want to be really intense. So let's listen to that again in the mix. When I am not afraid. I want you to feel safe to dream again. Okay, that's feeling really, really like kind of stressed in a good way and in your face. So I'm happy with that. Let's solo it again and just check the EQ here. To feel safe to dream again. Whoa, whoa, I want you to feel safe to dream again. Whoa, whoa, I want you to feel safe. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to show you on this vocal before we go to de-essing is a trick that a lot of mix engineers use on their vocals to get a little bit of extra grit and energy out of them and make them explode out of the speakers in a really, really cool way. So we're going to open up another plugin here. We're going to go to overdrive, which it would be in distortion. Yeah. So if you go into distortion, then open up overdrive. What this is going to do is this is going to distort the vocal. And when you distort the vocal very lightly, the listener doesn't necessarily notice that it's distorted, but it feels really energetic and full. So I'm going to dial in some distortion here and see where we get to. Whoa! So the first thing, it has a focus area of distortion, Right now it's set to 980 hertz. That's way too low. So I'm just going to change where the distortion happens in the frequency spectrum.
Whoa, whoa, I want you to feel safe to dream again.
So it sounds really good at the top range of that vocal. I'm going to try it there.
Whoa, whoa.
Obviously, our vocal has gotten very loud, so we're going to turn this output down.
I want you to feel safe to dream again.
I'm going to drive it even a little bit harder, I think. It's sounding really cool.
Whoa, whoa, I want you to feel safe to dream again.
I think that sounds awesome. Let's de-ess it so that our S's don't get out of control.
Whoa, whoa, I want you to feel safe to dream again. Oh, I want you to feel safe to dream again. Oh, I want you to feel safe to dream again.
Sounds awesome. Let's just put it in a little bit of that reverb again.
Whoa, whoa, I want you to feel safe to dream again. Whoa, whoa, I want you to feel safe to dream again.
So we've done two different styles of vocal mixing here. We've done a really soft and easygoing opto style compressor verse vocal and a really heavy hitting FET compression distorted chorus vocal. The main takeaways I would like you to leave with is put your EQ first. Don't be afraid to use heavy compression. I'm never afraid to use heavy compression ever. Don't forget to de-ess your vocal, send it to a little bit of reverb, and if you're feeling spicy, try that overdrive plugin. It's a really, really good tool for creating an extra little grit and explosion on top of a big vocal. Hopefully you're leaving with an understanding of how to get a great vocal sound in GarageBand. If there's something that you didn't understand or something you feel like I didn't explain correctly, please leave a comment below. I read all of the comments and I will do my best to answer any of your questions that you throw my way. Otherwise, that's it for now. I will see you next week.